The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Mr. Secretary, if you could please call the roll.
Vice Chair Orenshall. Here. Senator Goycochea. Here. Senator Daly. Senator Krasner. Here. Chair Flores.
Present. Please let the record reflect 4 members are present. We have a quorum. Please mark Senator Daly as absent excused and mark him present as he makes his way back into the committee. Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining the hard-working Committee on Government Affairs this afternoon or evening. As always, I just want to remind everybody that all of us are simultaneously presenting bills as Government Affairs is meeting, and so you'll have folk walking in and out. Please don't take that as a sign of disrespect. It's not that your issue is not important. It often means that we're being summoned somewhere else to go present. But again, please don't take that as a sign of disrespect. I want to remind everybody to please silence your cell phones. I am doing that now myself. For those of you who intend to testify today, please state your name for the record after each question. In the interest of fairness and to make it abundantly clear, for transparency purposes, all testimony, support, opposition, or neutral will be limited to 2 minutes, and all 3 bills will have 30 minutes allocated to each section. What I mean by that is we're going to open up with Senate Bill 51. There'll be, after the bill presentation and the questions by the committee members, we will allocate 30 minutes of testimony in support, 30 minutes in testimony in opposition, and 30 minutes to testimony in neutral. Afterwards, we'll close out the hearing, and we'll do the same thing for all 3 bills. I say that because it's in the best interest of those of you who are either in support or opposition of an issue that you get your name on the record, make a quick remark, and then move on so that the next person can have an opportunity to get their name on the record. It most benefits your interest to maximize the amount of people that can participate in this process. If you exceed the 2 minutes, we will cut you off and then ask you to please submit the rest of your testimony in writing, which, by the way, all of you are encouraged to do so. You can always come up, say, I support this bill. I've already submitted my testimony in writing, and that is more than enough. I also want to remind folk that in the interest of fairness, if we have folk in Carson City and then folk on the phone, sometimes we'll swap back and forth so we can capture some folk from each kind of whatever lane they're using to participate in the process, whether they're here in person, Las Vegas, or over the phone. We're going to take the bills out of order. We're going to hear Senate Bill 51, followed by Senate Bill 373, and then lastly, Senate Bill 371. Afterwards, we'll do public comment at the very end. With that, we are going to open the hearing on Senate Bill 51. In the interest of transparency, we've already heard Senate Bill 51 before this committee. However, there was an extensive amendment that was proposed, and I wanted to allow the committee, before we took any action, to have an ample opportunity for that to be presented, as it is very different from what the original bill looked like. We're not going to reopen the conversation on the original language of Senate Bill 51. That debate's been had. That presentation's been made. We are now solely focusing on the amendment. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Flores and members of the Commission. My name is Mark Fiorentino with the law firm of Kemfer Kroll. We represent Nye County. As you know, this bill was originally submitted as Nye County's bill draft request, but the original intent always was to work with the other local officials who would be impacted and other stakeholders. And so we are happy to support the amendment that is in front of you today, and are actually very grateful for your time and patience in hearing it and giving us the time to work through with those other stakeholders. So just a couple main themes. Obviously, the bill deals with local government salaries. The amendment that you have in front of you accomplishes the following things. It applies salary increases to all local officials. Those local officials haven't had a salary adjustment since 2018, 2019. So this bill amendment provides for a one-time adjustment to sort of catch them up. And then going forward, it ties all future adjustments to the state employees, what their salary adjustments are. Very similar to language that is in a bill in the Assembly relating to judges' salaries. And then two other points that we're trying to accomplish here is that if, at the end of the day, the legislature passes the bill, we hope you are permanently out of this quagmire of trying to decide when and how to adjust local government salaries, because it will be permanently tied to the state employee adjustments. And then the amendment also provides an opt-out for counties to opt out so that they can, for all of the local officials, adopt a salary less than the maximum allowed by the salary. So I'm going to introduce you, let Vincent Guthrow take it over. He's the Executive Director of NACO, and Vince has been working more closely with the stakeholders on the actual language, and so he can kind of walk you through the actual language, and I'm happy, grateful again, and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the record. My name is Vincent Guthrow. My last name is spelled Guthreau. My first name is Vincent, Vinson. And as Mr. Florentino mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Association of Counties, or NACO, and all of our members, all of NACO's members are all 17 of Nevada's counties. Really, I want to echo and appreciate you, Mr. Chair, and this committee for allowing us to explain. The amendment is a little bit more detailed, but it really pulls in a lot more individuals. So I appreciate you allowing us the opportunity to present that today. And we believe this amendment reflects a proposal that was mentioned, or a question that was mentioned at the original hearing on April 3rd, which was, what about all of the other elected officials in the state? We think this reflects a proposal for a much-needed salary adjustment for those individuals as well. So the amendment before you has been uploaded to Nellis and provided to the committee. And I just want to walk through in detail some of a few of the things that Mr. Florentino mentioned. So if you take a look in subsection 2, subsection A of the amendment, this allows for a 15% increase in base salaries that were effective on January 1st, 2024. And I think providing, as we did in the April 3rd hearing, I want to provide a little bit of context for the initial increase. Again, as a reminder for this committee, the last time the salaries were previously adjusted was in 2018. This immediate catch-up provision would reflect a 2.5% annual increase, which I don't even think quite meets inflation, but I think it gets us there in some context. After conversations with multiple stakeholders and feedback from members of this committee, we believe the 15% catch-up provision provides for a compromise, given now that all local elected officials are included in the amendment. And again, subsequent adjustments would then be based on salary increases tied to state worker compensation. This provision remains unchanged from the amendment that was proposed on April 3rd, and it's outlined in Section 2, subsection B of the amendment. And then subsequent language mimicked in Section 3 in subsections A and B applies these provisions to county commissioners, which was presented at the April 3rd hearing also. Again, as mentioned, this amendment would now apply to all counties and now incorporates all local elected officials, bringing equity to the local government compensation adjustments. And again, that opt-out provision, given the unknown and potential unanticipated issues with local government budgets, it could be global economic changes or steep decline in revenues. There is an opt-out provision, which is outlined in Section 5. This amendment maintains the opt-out provision that was again presented in the prior hearing. There is one caveat that we added in language: should a Board of County Commissioners by a majority vote utilize this opt-out provision, then it would apply to all county elected officials. I do want to make one thing clear for the record and at this hearing, based on some feedback that I've received from stakeholders. The addition of this additional language, should it be utilized, our intention here is to apply it equally to all elected officials. So that includes the offices that are mentioned, but also to county commissioners. This is our intent with that language. If it doesn't get us there, I'm happy to work up on the cleanup and get that into the intent. So I just want to I want to put that on the record that is our goal with that language. So, Mr. Chair, these are the major provisions of the amendment. We again thank the committee for hearing this updated amendment, and for the reasons we previously discussed, we believe this brings equity to the question of local elected official salaries. And with this passage of the amendment, we have an opportunity to remove one barrier to finding qualified individuals to run for office. I think you'll find that it's been a while, as mentioned, that salaries have been adjusted, and salaries are a lot different now then. And we're again appreciative of the opportunity to present this amendment, and we stand for questions.
And thank you for the second bite at the apple with a lot more extensive language added to it. Members, any questions? We'll start off with Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, and it's the opt-out language, and of course, we had some conversations, but, you know, I thought maybe the opt-out language, for county commissioners and maybe midterm, but the way I look at the bill, once you put this salary schedule in statute, maybe it wouldn't be in 24, but if you had somebody run for that office, then I don't see how you'd have the opt-out provision. It would be in statute, that would be the salary. And we had the conversation about how budgets might tweak up and down. But I think that it would be hard for a board of county commissioners, even a majority vote of the commissioners, to say, okay, you ran for the office and the salary was $98,000, but we can't pay it, so we don't have to. I'm a little nervous about that. I think the Board of County Commissioners should opt out, but they shouldn't have the ability to adjust the other elected officials' salaries. And that's kind of where I was coming. Is that your intent? The way I read this, it sounds like that's the intent.
Let me tell you what I think the intent was, but then Vince can kind of correct. And so the nature of I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, Mark Fiorentino for the record. You're trying to address a concern to avoid the situation where the county commissioners approved salary increases for themselves, but not for all of the other officials.
Can't do that.
And so that's what that language is meant to do. I don't think, as in Nye County anyway, I don't think we have a objection to language that says what you said, that they can only opt out for themselves and not for the other elected officials. But I only speak for Nye County on that issue, and so I think Vince would have to address it for the others.
And I'm not speaking for, again, I like the opt-out provision. And I sat on the Board of County Commissioners for a while, and, it would be problematic to go ahead and put a pay raise in January 1st if you were, say, midterm in some of these counties, because it probably ensure you're going to leave the next bus out. The bottom line is, let the county commissioners have the option, but clearly the other elected officials would go in at the 115% and then accelerate with the same as classified state employees. The opt-out should only pertain to those Board of County Commissioners, because I know some county commissioners say, well, we're not here for the money, kind of like being a legislator.
So, Mr. Chair, one more time to be clear. Nye County is fine with what you just described, but that's a question
Okay.
for Vince.
Mr. Guthrie.
Yeah, Mr. Vincent Guthrie for the record. So what I've heard back from my members is that, yes, I think for themselves, the opt-out, I would have to get some clarifying language, but I read this in a little bit of a different way also, I guess an intent, and I'm happy to look at cleanup language. I don't think the intent of this language is to allow boards of county commissioners to then claw back raises that have already been approved for positions. I think the intent is to allow for a vote for subsequent raises. If we need to clean that language up, I'm happy to do it. My goal is to provide as much comfort as possible with that language. And really, the language was put in there to bring comfort to folks, to make sure that for the individuals that I represent, to allow them the understanding that there could be flexible budgets and budget and fiscal impacts that are unforeseen. But our intent, I think, on the opt-out piece, again, majority vote, they would have to justify it. It's not to claw back. Salaries that have already been approved. It would be about the future. So once that classified state salary then comes up, hey, we need to take a vote. We don't have the money for, let's say the state offered a 5%. Maybe we only have to provide some flexibility on that opt-out. That's the goal. Happy to work on language that accomplishes that. I don't, and I'm even willing to talk about language that we wouldn't claw back raises that have already been approved.
That's
I hope
fine.
I muddled it even more for you.
Anyway, that's just my position. And I understand the budgeting piece of it, but again, if you're looking at these 9 set salaries here, if that's going to make or break your budget, you're probably already in trouble at 2.5% on it, so, realistically. And then we talk about, well, I think the comment was made, we'd never deal with this again. All you got to do is bring another bill back next session, and you can change this. It's statute.
Happy not to do that.
I would too. I won't be
kidding.
here, so bring all you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we'll go to Senator Krasner, please.
Thank you, Chair Flores. Thank you for your presentation. I just want to clarify the amendment. The amendment proposes a 15% salary increase catch-up provision on January 1, 2024 for all elected officials. That's the first part. And then the section regarding yearly raises will be only for county commissioners. Is that correct?
Vincent Guthrow, for the record, no. The language is mimicked in two sections, one that applies to all the other elected officials and one that applies to county commissioners. So it's for all elected officials. That's correct. Vincent Guthrow, for the record.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you again for the presentation and joining us this evening. I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 51 to please come forward, Carson City or Las Vegas. Whoever wishes to go first, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the Government Affairs Committee. My name is Pamela Del Porto, Pamela Del Porto. I'm Executive Director for Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. I'm here today to testify on behalf of the association in strong support of Senate Bill 51. We wanted to thank the bill sponsor and for the assistance in the efforts to bring some parity to the salaries of county elected officials. Many, if not all, of these elected officials have subordinate staff whose salaries exceed those of their own of the elected officials because of the lack of an increase for a few years. Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs urges the support and passage of the amended bill, and thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you, Chair Flores, Senators. For the record, my name is Mark Jackson, MarkJackson, and I am here as President of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. We too would like to thank the original bill sponsor and Mr. Guthrow, the Executive Director of NACO, for bringing forward the amendment. Our association members understand how difficult it always is for, no matter what the times are, no matter what the economics are, but for any legislature to tackle any pay increases for elected officials. And I recall back in 2015, I was also president of our DA's Association, and Senator Goicoechea was chairing this same committee, and I met with him numerous times, and we worked through some bill language at that time. The only difference, I think, between now and then is I think Senator Goicoechea looks the same, but he may recall I didn't have a single gray hair in 2015. So it shows you how much things can change during those 8 years. But we do appreciate the hard work that you do, and we would ask for your support on this bill amendment.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Good afternoon. Stephen Wood, representing Carson City today, and the Carson City Board of Supervisors has voted to support this measure with the amendment, and so with that, I'll keep it simple and ditto the remarks from the previous speakers. Thanks.
Scott Hohen, the Carson City Clerk Recorder, Registrar of Voters, Public Administrator. I wear a lot of hats that covered in this bill. I urge you to do this sooner than later. I'm on all the calls, the elections calls, the clerk calls, the recorder calls, and it is true that a lot of the staff members are now exceeding the elected officials' pay. If you go back to when this was first put into place, this structure, it was pretty comparable and pretty fair, but now without these increases, for the last 4 or 5 years, you're going to find yourself in a difficult spot to find qualified people to run for these offices. 10 out of the 17 clerks are no longer with us. I ran for this office because I stepped up, I cared. It wasn't the money as much as me caring about Carson City, but to find a qualified person to wear all the hats that I'm doing right now, it'll be a challenge, and I urge you to put this into effect sooner than later, not wait very long. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Chair Flores, members of the committee, Isaac Tenorio with Strategy 360, today representing Churchill County. We urge you guys to vote for this bill. We support the amendment. We think this will assist in rural Nevada and helping recruit qualified candidates, and we think that's important. And we thank you for your time. We appreciate the tireless effort that you guys have committed this past week. I know the nights have been long, and we thank you for that. So have a wonderful day.
Thank you for joining us. Please.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, committee members. For the record, my name is Steve Walker. I'm representing Douglas, Story, and Lyon counties. They're all in support of SB 51, particularly with the opt-out condition. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Anybody else wishing to join us for Senate Bill 51? I see no one in Carson City. We'll go to Las Vegas.
Hello, my name is Lynn Marie Goya. I'm the Clark County Clerk and former president of CFOA, which is the Clerks, Recorders, Election Officials, and Fiscal Officers Association. I'm here today speaking on behalf of the Clerks Association. We support this amendment. The clerks, most of them are election officials as well. They work really hard. They have been subject to threats and death threats and intimidation, and they really deserve to have the respect of getting a raise. It's not just the money, it's also recognizing their hard work and integrity. So we feel that this amendment will be able to show that we respect the recorders, the clerks, all the hard workers that are permanent, full-time elected officials in the county level. So I urge you to support this amendment, and I thank you. I want to thank the sponsors for bringing this bill forward. We have submitted an exhibit that basically just shows in a graphical form and a table form how the salaries have been over the last 8 years. This is a joint presentation with many of the same group associations. So if you have any questions, please let me know and I'll be able to answer them. We've been working with other associations as well to make sure that this presentation is as accurate and helpful as possible. It's basically data showing the raises and inflation. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else in Las Vegas wishing to join us?
Yes, I'd like to join support. I support the bill, increasing our salaries.
And sir, if we could
keeping
have you
our,
state your name for the record, please.
Oh, my name is Al Rojas. I live in 8012, Assembly District 12, Senate District 21. I support this bill. We should retain our great people in office. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in Las Vegas? I don't think I see anybody else coming forward. BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us on the phone in support of Senate Bill 51?
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. BPS will stay on the phone. Is there anyone wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 51?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 51, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. And the public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Anybody wishing to testify in opposition, Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, we will invite those wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 51, Carson City or Las Vegas. Seeing none, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us in the neutral position for Senate Bill 51?
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Perfect. If any closing remarks you may have.
Mr. Chair, for the record, again, Mark Fiorentino. No closing remarks, but we think we have the fix if you want us to read it in the record, and we can then submit it further in writing if that's what you want us to do. So it would be in the new green subsection 5. The change would be to read it, to make it read as follows. A county commission may, by a majority vote of its members, approve a salary less than the amount set forth in subsection 3, period, and then strike the rest of that, so that the opt-out provision would only apply to county commissioners. And I think that's a relatively easy fix, although not a perfect one.
Mr. Chair, if I may, yeah, I think that's good. I'm just concerned, though, because in statute, going forward, it will list this is a salary for a county commissioner or whatever, and if we start allowing on opt-out, then you're going to have, okay, you filed to run for the office, this is what it says in statute, but the county over the years has opted out. I think technically, if we just have the commissioners, and when you file to run for that seat, this is what you're running for, there's no longer an opt-out position at that point. And right now, while you're a seated commissioner, give them the ability to say, no, we're not going to take the raise. And that's
fair.
kind of what you do.
And that's, I think why I described it as a decent amendment, but not a perfect one, but
Right.
I get it. Yep.
All right,
Yep.
thank you, and
Yep.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
It is a work in progress. It's fine. With that, thank you for the presentation. We'll close out the hearing on Senate Bill 51. And I am up next, so I will hand over the gavel to our amazing Vice Chair.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores. Thank you very much for trusting me with the gavel. We are very lucky to have you here to present Senate Bill 373. And with that, I'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 373.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and to my esteemed colleagues of the hardworking Committee on Government Affairs. I am Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, proudly representing Senate District 2, and I am here to present Senate Bill 373. My language access bill. I would like to first start the conversation just to put my bill into context, because I think it's important that I clarify this. The origin of this bill really started with Senate Bill 318 that was signed into law during the 2021 Nevada Legislative session, which required all state agencies to create a language access plan to improve access to government services, programs, and information for Nevadans with limited English proficiency. The issue is that under Senate Bill 318 that was implemented in 2021, it forced the state agencies to create a plan, but it never actually created the teeth of implementation. And so if you visit the website of the Office of New Americans, you can find a whole host of state agencies that actually created language access plans. However, anecdotally and some of the audits that were made, we learned that unfortunately not everybody implemented them and or actually created a language access plan. The reason that's relevant to us and why we should care is that we need to fix that because presently, state agencies that are federally funded are required to ensure compliance with the Safe Streets Act and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and they must take reasonable steps to ensure that limited English persons have meaningful access to its programs and activities. This allows states this allows state and local agencies to add a budget line item specifically for language access when they request federal dollars. So one of the things that I want to make it abundantly clear is that if we don't have an actual language access plan, if we're not offering them, if we don't have something in place and we're not translating documents that are vital, if we're not doing certain things, and when I say we, I'm referring to our state agencies, and they're receiving federal money, a complaint can formally be filed against them. And so in order for us to ensure that we don't get hit with some lawsuits, I am now presenting my bill. And so what does my bill do? My bill is now subsequent to the work we saw implemented in 2021. And specifically, in Section 1, what we're saying is, not only do we want to ensure that a language access plan exists, but we also want to make sure that we are reporting back to the governor and the director of LCB how we are in fact translating vital documents, how we are making those accessible to folk with limited English proficiency. And then that way we make sure that not only are we creating a language access plan, but it's actually being implemented. The only other question that I'd like to, because I presume that folk may ask how we came up with the 12 most common spoken language that's in the bill. We saw that language in other states. And we also recognize that if we specified specific languages, we would have to come back and maybe change that, because demographics are constantly changing, while migration patterns today may dictate that the majority of folk may speak Tagalog, Spanish and Mandarin. That may change tomorrow. So we wanted to go off of census data and focus specifically on the 12 most common languages. That's all the bill does. I think our bill is a solution to ensure that we don't get sued and that we're in compliance with federal law. So if anybody has any questions, now's the time.
Thank you very much, Chair Flores. Thank you for sponsoring this important legislation. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 373 for Chair Flores? Senator Goicoechea.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I was looking for the 12 languages, and then again, how would you change those up? Just by census, you're saying then?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Senator Goicoechea. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. That's correct. And in anticipation of that question, I did ensure that we had that research done. And if you visit the Data USA website, there's a bunch of information on there. But you'll see in there Spanish, Tagalog, Mandarin, Cantonese, Korean, Vietnamese, French, German, Thai amongst those 12, Japanese amongst those 12. And again, in 10 years, that may change. The population, we may have a whole host of folk here from other countries. As we're looking at migration patterns, we do see a lot of different folk coming in from, for example, Europe. There's some instability there, but the Middle East as well, along with the patterns that we've seen from Central America, North America, and Mexico. But again, the idea is not to tie the hands to a specific language, but rather based on population.
And you see that list changing every 10 years with the census?
It's
Not
possible.
in between?
That's correct. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, that's correct, Senator Goicoechea, that could potentially change. Now, it might not. It may just very well increase the percentages we see now. But if it does change, then we wanted to ensure that the bill would not have to, we would not have to reopen this chapter and keep changing specific languages.
Right, but the point I'm trying to make is the state agency at year 5, and all of a sudden we saw a little shift in these numbers. They wouldn't have to, it
No.
would be only every census year.
That's
And they'd
correct.
have to come back to state agencies, and if they had to tweak the languages, they would do it then.
Thank you for that clarification question, Senator Goicoechea. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, and I apologize that I misunderstood your question. Yes, that is absolutely correct. Okay. We don't want to be tweaking this every month or every year. Absolutely not. We want to go off of, and it would technically happen every 10 years based on the same census data.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair Flores, and thank you, Senator Goicoechea. And I too just really appreciate how the bill has that flexibility by not listing languages in statute, but by allowing that fluidity, as immigration patterns change. So I really appreciate the legislation. I think it's so important. Members, any additional questions for the chair? No. Right. Okay, not seeing any additional questions, then I'd like to open it up for support for Senate Bill 373. Here, we'll start here in Carson City. We are limiting it to 2 minutes per speaker, and then we'll go down to the Sawyer Building, then we'll go to the phone lines. So thank you for joining us. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Vice Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee, for the record, Carlos Hernandez, representing Nevada State AFL-CIO. We are in full support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Paul Catha, CITHA, representing the Culinary Workers Union Local 226. I'll just ditto the sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon again, Vice Chair Lilith Barron, Lilith Baran, ACLU of Nevada. Happily support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here in Carson City? Okay, not seeing anyone here in Carson. Down at the Sawyer Building. Please state your name for the record and proceed, and we are limiting it to 2 minutes per speaker.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is David Beltran Barajas, DAVID BELTRAN BARAJAS. I'm the immigrant rights organizer at the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada, here in support for Senate Bill 373. At PLAN, we believe that it is essential that members of different diasporas and our immigrant communities be able to read vital documents in the language they're most comfortable with. Spanish is my first language, but not my most utilized. And as someone who is trying to improve my mastery of Spanish, I do understand that it can be very difficult to often read and process information in my weaker language. This bill would give needed assistance to those who use different languages but are just as much Nevadans as you and I. We support the proposed plan to make vital documents accessible in the 12 most common languages. It is imperative that we do so. It is imperative that we do this not only to continue making Nevada a home for people all over the globe, but also for safety reasons. During COVID, an oversight Nevada encountered was vital information was only ever provided in English, leaving folks to struggle in the dark. Fortunately, community organizations provided translations for their own communities. With that being said, for the sake of our immigrant communities and different diasporas, I ask that the members of the committee support Senate Bill 373. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pedrajas. For the next speaker, please state your name for the record and proceed.
I'm going to time myself for the 2 minutes. My name is Al Rojas. I live in Assembly District 12, Senate District 21. I frequently visit Senate District 2, which is Senator Flores' district, and I am a registered staunch Republican. I totally support this bill. Let us not forget that Henry Ford, when he had his company and we were bringing a lot of immigrants from Europe, he had his Americanization project, which he would get people, new immigrants, assimilated to how our country works, and giving people access to us being an immigrant country of people who come from every parts of the world. It's very important that they understand how to work through the government and how to work through the system. And Senator Flores is in the large scope of things. Bill definitely supports this. We need to get people, especially of Hispanic descent, to be more integrated with our system and not just living rogue and not feel that they're part of the system. I totally support this. This is not just for Hispanics, it's for everybody. We all got to get on the same page. I support this bill, and I thank Senator Flores for bringing this to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Rojas. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Hello, Marissa Kagan from, I believe, District 1. I've been living here for 13 years. I am a real estate agent by trade. I'm the National Association of Realtors, one of 27 global ambassadors. I represent the countries of Italy, Portugal, and Spain and help with trade between our countries. And this, to me, is I loved hearing this bill. This is not the bill I came for today, but hearing it, I had to speak up because I've been pushing for translation of contracts in the real estate world for a very long time. It seems really, it's just common sense to have vital pieces of documents, whether it's in a real estate transaction or whether it's about government communications. They should be provided in as many languages as possible. We have a wonderful, wonderful state, a very diverse international state, and we should embrace that, and we should make all of our residents feel welcome. So thank you for this proposal. I'm full support of this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else down at the Sawyer Building who wishes to speak in favor of Senate Bill 373? Okay, not seeing anyone. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to speak in support of Senate Bill 373?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 373, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of Government Affairs Committee. My name is Deanna Huatran. That's DEANNAHUATRAN. And I'm the Coalition Coordinator for the Nevada Immigrant Coalition, here on behalf of the Coalition and in full support of SB 373. Growing up, my parents relied heavily on my brother and I to interpret and translate information for almost all of our vital documents. And while I'm flattered that my parents' high confidence in their 10-year-old to be able to do this, it was not always accurate, easy, or even safe. And after experiencing the magnitude of the pandemic and how much we had to rely on vital information and documents in order to navigate such an event, we know that language equity and accessibility is essential in order for all of our residents to be able to safely and confidently navigate not only healthcare systems, but other legal documents and government documents. As Chair Flores emphasized, an intentional and meaningful language access plan is an imperative for our state residents to feel both safe and included in our communities. We urge your support for SB 373. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Broadcasting, anyone else on the phone lines in support of Senate Bill 373?
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Maria Teresa Lieberman Barraga. That's TERESALIEBERMANN-PARRAGA, and I'm the Deputy Director of Battleborn Progress and very strong support of SB 373, and thank the sponsor, Senator Flores, for pushing this incredible bill forward. I grew up, like many of the people that testified, being the official translator for my mom, friends, parents, and family, and even to this day in my capacity, especially when it comes to interacting with government processes and documents. I believe that this bill is a great first step, and I think we need to go even further to make sure that our government and our processes are incredibly accessible for people, because for example, my mother knows how to talk to you in English, but put a document or put her in front of a hearing, and she may have a hard time, but she lives here and is a citizen of this state just as much as anyone else. And so we need to do a lot more to ensure that people are finding this accessible. So please support SB 373. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Broadcasting, anyone else on the phone lines?
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you very much. I want to come back to Carson City, and we will now go to opposition. Anyone who's opposed Senate Bill 373 who wants to be heard, we're limiting it to 2 minutes per speaker. Okay, not seeing anyone here in Carson City. Down at the Sawyer Building, anyone who's in opposition? All right, not seeing anyone. Broadcasting on the phone lines, is there anyone who wishes to be heard in opposition to Senate Bill 373?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 373, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you very much. I'll come back to Carson City, neutral on Senate Bill 373. Anyone who wants to be heard in the neutral position, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Hi, Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Catherine Nielsen. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities. We are testifying in neutral to this bill today. While we see many benefits to this bill, we do also want to remind you that American Sign Language, or ASL, is the most commonly used language by those who are deaf and hard of hearing in the United States. And approximately more than 500,000 people in the United States use American Sign Language to communicate as their primary language. American Sign Language is the third most commonly used language in the United States after English and Spanish. Contrary to popular belief, American Sign Language is not representative of English, nor is it the same sort of imitation of spoken English that we use on a day-to-day basis. For many, it will come as a great surprise that American Sign Language has more similarities to spoken Japanese and Navajo than English. When we discuss American Sign Language or any other types of sign language, we are referring to what is called a visual language, and the visual component refers to the use of body movements versus sound. Because listeners use their eyes to receive information, this language was specifically created to be easily recognized by the eyes. The visual components refer to the body movements or signs that are performed to convey a message. The Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA, requires that state and local governments, as well as businesses and nonprofits organizations, must communicate as effectively with people who have communication disabilities as those without. Language access is vital for people with disabilities and other accommodation needs. This bill provides access to language for many. However, it fails to specifically address how it will impact those who use American Sign Language as their primary language. We encourage discussion with the Commission for Persons Who Are Deaf, Hard of Hearing, and Speech Impaired to further the conversation on how to support citizens who use American Sign Language. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nielsen. And I know it's late before a deadline this Friday, but if you could try to reach out to the sponsor, and I sure appreciate your testimony. Thank you. Neutral, anyone else here in Carson City or anyone down at the Sawyer Building who wants to be heard in the neutral position on Senate Bill 373? Not seeing anyone down at the Sawyer Building broadcasting. Is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to be heard in the neutral position on Senate Bill 373?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 373, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. Chair Flores, any closing comments? Thank you for presenting the bill.
Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, I just wanted to say thank you to those who called in, and I am committed to working to help our community that I inadvertently left out, whatever we can do with sign language. If I can't do it on this side, I'll fix it on the assembly side. With that, I'm done.
Chair Flores, thank you for presenting this bill. It is so important, and thank you for being here today to present it. With that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 373, and I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 371. And we're, again, very lucky to have Chair Flores here to present.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and again, members of the committee. I am Senator Edgar Flores, representing Senate District 2, and I'm here to present Senate Bill 371. I believe it is a straightforward and easy bill that will likely be tried to be blown out of proportion. And in the interest of efficiency, I'm going to go through my remarks, and then I'm going to ask that our legal provide a statement as to whether or not it is a position of our legal counsel that presently local jurisdictions can engage in matters of local concern that involve affordable housing. But before I do that, I will read some brief remarks that we've prepared. Under current law, a board of county commissioners or a governing body of an incorporated city is, with certain exceptions, authorized to exercise all powers necessary or proper to address matters of local concern for the effective operation of county or city government, whether or not the powers are expressly granted to the board or governing body. Our legal has made clear that Assembly Bill 445 and Senate Bill 29 of the 2015 legislative session granted authority to a Board of County Commissioners and a governing body of an incorporated city, except as expressly prohibited by statute, to enact any ordinance or measure relating to affordable housing, including without limitation rent control. I am not here to expand this body's decision in 2015. I bring forward Senate Bill 371 to clarify in law said authority because counties and cities have on numerous occasions expressed doubt as to whether or not they can engage in matters related to affordable housing. With this bill, I am making clear local government has been able to employ a whole host of tools such as rent control, inclusionary zoning, payments of money in lieu of the performance of an obligation, and linkage fees, amongst others. The bill will allow governing bodies of cities and counties to tailor local ordinances to meet the needs of their respective communities. Nothing in this bill makes local jurisdictions do anything. This is the entirety of the bill. No city or county has to do anything. We are simply clarifying that if they want to do something involving affordable housing, they can. The reason this is so important, when we talk about what matter of local concern means, it's imperative that we go to sections 244 and 268 of the NRS. And therein, it says, matters of local concern does not concern a state interest that requires a statewide uniformity of regulation. Why am I saying that? When we talk about affordable housing, every single time I bring up what may be the best possible approach to that issue in Clark County, you're going to inadvertently get some pushback from Nye County. When we have that conversation in Washoe, you may get some pushback from what Carson City believes. My point to it is, we cannot address this issue statewide because it is so deeply rooted in a population that is served by a county or city that when we bring up certain issues related to affordable housing, it's like you're speaking a different language depending on where you live in the state of Nevada. It is not the same problem everywhere. I personally, in 2015, voted against both bills that I specifically mentioned because I personally felt that Dillon's rule really was the correct approach to Nevada, that we give the express authority to local jurisdictions. And people pushed back and disagreed with me. And this body said that's not the way we're going to operate, and we created somewhat of a hybrid model. We didn't go strictly to home rule, and we are no longer strictly a Dillon's rule. We're more like a modified Dillon's state now. But I make that point because understandably, local jurisdictions have wanted to engage in certain conversations, but there's always this constant sense of hesitation. So, for that reason, I thought that it was imperative that even though this was not what I wanted in 2015, that I make it abundantly clear what we did in 2015. If I may now ask that our legal counsel provide clarity as to whether or not it is our interpretation of the 2015 legislation that local jurisdictions could in fact participate in the conversation and employ different programs or methods dealing with affordable housing.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Clarkson?
Thank you. For the record, Heidi Clarkson with the Legal Division of the Legislative Counsel Bureau. As Chair Flores mentioned, the legislature in 2015 modified Dillon's rule. It authorized counties and cities to address matters of local concern. A matter of local concern is defined for both cities and counties as any matter which primarily affects or impacts areas located in the county or city or persons who reside in the county or city, is not within the exclusive jurisdiction of another governmental entity, and does not concern a state interest that requires statewide uniformity. It is the opinion of the legal division that this authority includes or grants counties and cities the ability to regulate affordable housing, including imposing rent control measures. A rent control measure within a county or city impacts the amount of rent that can be charged within that county or city. It is not within the exclusive jurisdiction of another governmental entity. There is no preemption or prohibition in federal or state law specifically relating to rent control. And it does not concern a state interest that requires statewide uniformity. There are other states where the legislature has enacted a statute that says either rent control is prohibited or rent control or issues relating to affordable housing is an issue of statewide concern. So because we don't have that, I think that is important. The 2015 bills explicitly said that if there is any fair or reasonable doubt concerning the existence of a power of a city or county to address a matter of local concern, it must be presumed that the county or city has that power, unless the presumption is rebutted by evidence of a contrary intent of the legislature. So this particular piece of legislation, SB 371, in our opinion, clarifies that, but it does not require it.
Thank you, Ms. Clarkson. Chair Flores, please go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you to our legal counsel for providing that clarity. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. Again, our legal does not like to draft redundant language and does not like to put that in the record. But this legislation was implemented in 2015. It's now been 8 years, and there's been an ongoing debate. In the midst of a horrible housing crisis in the state of Nevada, there isn't a single entity, private partner, nonprofit, or legislator in the state of Nevada that does not agree that we are in the middle of a housing crisis. And if that is true, then we are obligated as a body to ensure that we implement every federal, every state, and local option to address those needs of our constituency. And so with this bill, when we look at data in Nevada that we need at least 84,000 on the conservative end, affordable housing units to meet the needs of our community, I am reminded of why we need this clarity in the law. When we talk about how in the state of Nevada, it's estimated that over 243,000 renter households are paying over 30% of their household income on rent, which is unfortunately, according to the affordable housing definition of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, says that an occupants are paying more than 30% of a household income for gross income, of their housing cost, that's what we would define as affordable housing, then that is a problem. And I just wanted to give ourselves an opportunity to honor the intent of the 2015 legislation and allow for local jurisdictions to do what is needed. And if they don't need to do anything, then they can do nothing. This bill forces you to do absolutely nothing. It just simply clarifies that local jurisdictions can in fact engage in this conversation of affordable housing. And with that, Mr. Vice Chair, I would allow for questions or any comments that the committee may have.
Thank you very much, Chair Flores. Thank you for presenting this important legislation, and thank you to our legal counsel for that clarification. Members, any questions regarding Senate Bill 371? Senator Daley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and frankly, Senator Flores. I was hoping I'd miss this whole hearing, but nevertheless, now that I'm here, so I just have some concerns with the language and curious on how far you might be expanding some of this problem and what might be included as any ordinance or measure relating to affordable housing. So I don't see a definition for affordable housing, if there is one. Affordable housing means a variety of different things to different people. I think there's definitions for low-income housing. And then if I can do any ordinance or measure relating to affordable housing, can I override other statutes and various things that says I can give incentives or I can raise a tax which I know they can't do under the Dillon's rule when we gave them limited authority. But when I read any ordinance or measure relating to affordable housing, seems like you're giving them authority to do just about anything as long as they tag it with affordable housing. And to me, that creates a problem.
Thank you for that question, Senator Daly. I guess the question is, are we now doing something through this legislation that we did not do in 2015? And Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, the answer for me is no. And I will defer again to our legal counsel should they want to add anything to that. But the question that you present is, are we now with this legislation going beyond anything that we believe could have already been done with the 2015 legislation? And if I could have our legal counsel come in on that conversation without having given her the opportunity to prepare any remarks, but if our legal could once again come in on that conversation, please.
Thank you, Chair Flores. Ms. Clarkson, if I could reach out to you for assistance, thank you.
For the record, this is Heidi Clarkson with the Legal Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. The authority of a county or city to regulate matters of, to address a matter of local concern there are limitations from the 2015 bill. As Senator Daly mentioned, one of the limitations was you can't impose the city or county could not impose a tax. They can't call for an election. So there are some limitations inherent in the 2015 legislation already that allowed the local governments to regulate matters of local concern. Certainly, if a city or county, pursuant to the authority in this bill, enacted an ordinance relating to affordable housing, including rent control, they would still be bound by other limitations that exist in statute, and certainly other constitutional limitations that would still apply. So this is just a grant of authority to explicitly say and to clarify that this counties and cities would have authority to regulate affordable housing, including without limitation rent control.
Thank you very much, Ms. Clarkson. Appreciate your help. Thank you for our legal counsel, our legal division. Senator Daly, any follow-up?
If I can, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I heard what legal counsel said, and I understand the intent, and I'll relate a story to you that I learned the hard way when I would negotiate with people on various things. And we would go to a meeting, we'd agree on the words, we'd say, this is our intent. But when I say any measure relating, when the only limitation before was issues of local control, and that was vague enough, this says now they can do any ordinance or measure relating to affordable housing. So when we met and we agreed on the words, and then afterwards, when we're out there in the real world, and somebody else comes back and says, yep, I was there, I read the hearing, I understand the intent, but that's not what the words say. And there's a different interpretation, and you end up in court, and you never know where you're going to be at. So we have a very precise language, the English language, very precise, so we should be precise.
I appreciate that comment, Senator Daly, and Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. My pushback is that matters of local concern, to me, is much more broad, much more encompassing than affordable housing. And in my opinion, we agreed to that. 2015, I did not want this. I voted against it twice. But we did that. And in my opinion, if that incredibly broad phrase has created any type of confusion as to what that means, and in my opinion, the way it's been used is that it's used to I don't know how to disguise this in any other way, so I'll be straightforward and blunt. When it's advantageous to an objective, it's all encompassing. When it's not advantageous to another objective, it's not. That is problematic to me. That is part of the reason why I did not want us to go in this direction. But we did it. and a whole host of folk came up and presented that bill in support of it. And now some of those folk are saying, well, wait a minute, I'm not sure, or they're saying, well, I didn't have that title back then. That's not what I intended, or that's not what we were talking about. The reality is that that's the direction we went in 2015. It's been 8 years. I think we now have a responsibility to stop using that quote-unquote confusion as to whether or not they could do it, and just clarify that it does. Matters of local concern does in fact include affordable housing. But I respect your point that even us having this conversation will not mean that there won't be somebody come up and say, well, I don't think affordable housing talks about houses. I thought it meant about, and it just gets some weird game going. So to the point that it's clear, we have legal, who has put it on the record twice. We have now expressly said it multiple times on my end, that it is in fact, with the original intent of 2015, what we are now ensuring is that everybody knows affordable housing was in fact included.
Thank you very much, Chair Flores. Follow-up, Senator Daly.
Thank you, and I'm hoping this will be the last one. I don't think I got a definition of what affordable housing is, and my concern is, and I'm not against people having affordable housing, and yes, I think rents are high, cost of housing's high, everything's high. But I think with this, if the intent through rent control is to have people create more affordable housing through, subverting what a landlord can charge. Now, granted, there are heartless landlords out there, I agree. But not every landlord is a predator, and not every tenant is a victim. And I just see mischief with this, and I understand what you're saying the intent is, but I think the language is ambiguous, and will be subject to interpretation whether we like it or not.
Thank you, Senator Daly, and Senator Edgar Flores. For the record, I do want to provide a definition for affordable housing, although I will defer to legal should we have a different definition anywhere else in the NRS. But I know affordable housing is defined by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development as housing for which the occupants are paying no more than 30% of the household income for gross housing costs. However, I don't know if we have a different definition, and if our legal counsel could clarify that.
Ms. Clarkson, thank you again for your assistance.
For the record, Heidi Clarkson with the Legislative Council Bureau. There are different definitions of affordable housing throughout NRS that apply for some purposes and not others. This bill does not include a definition of affordable housing. There is not, to my knowledge, just a general definition in chapters 244 or 268. So if it were the pleasure of the committee to include a definition in this bill, that could be done by the committee, and we would just need to know for drafting purposes what the definition of affordable housing would be for purposes of this grant of authority that you're giving the counties and cities.
Thank you, Ms. Clarkson. Senator Daly, any additional questions for Chair Flores?
One just final comment, just to make a different point. So they can enact any ordinance or measure relating to affordable housing, including without rent control. So based on your definition right there, it's all going to depend on what a person's income, how much they're paying for rent. Can they only provide rent control on housing that's already affordable or on housing that's not affordable? And your house can be right next door to somebody else's house, and the income levels are different, and one of them is paying more than 30%, so he's in unaffordable housing, so he's going to get rent control, and you're making more money and you're not paying over 30%, so you're not in you're in affordable housing, so you can't have any rent control. You see the problem that you're going to create? In my view, I think it creates a problem.
Thank you for that, Senator Daly, for your question. This is Senator Edgar Flores for the record. That game is true with everything. There isn't a single statute or law that this body, a county, or a city can implement that will not create that game. It is a typical tactic that is played when we are not trying to move in a certain direction, because this is what happens. If we were here creating a law saying a vehicle is something that has 4 tires, and then all of a sudden somebody's going to come up in here and have a hypothetical about what if it has 5 tires, what if it has 7, what it has this, what is a tire, what is not a tire, and we go into this game, right? And I am not suggesting that your point is not true. It is true that we're going to have a whole host of very complex conversations happening at the local level. My point to that is that truth is true of any law or any ordinance or anything we enact, because that is the reality of it. It is complex, and I do agree that the local jurisdictions are going to have this very difficult time if they engage in trying to define what affordable housing is, if they try to engage in what rent control looks like, what is rent control, what type of rent control, what is neighborhood stabilization, whatever it is, whatever the phrasing is, I agree with you 100% that there's going to be a lot of questions asked, and it's going to be complex, and that there will be a lot of public comment. But that is true of everything we do here. Every single time we've had a bill, there is some hypothetical that will make it seem incredibly complex, but it's what we do. Local governments address the needs of their folk all the time, and I expect them to be able to address some of these should they wish to engage in them.
Thank you, Chair Flores. Thank you, Senator Daly. Members, any additional questions for Chair Flores? All right, not seeing any additional questions. Thank you, Chair Flores, for presenting this important legislation. I'd now like to open it up for support for Senate Bill 371 here in Carson City. Then we'll go down to the Sawyer Building, then to the phone lines. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair or Vice Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. My name is Paul Catha, that's spelled C-A-T-H-A, and I represent the Culinary Workers Union Local 226. The Culinary Union has been actively involved in the conversation around affordable housing for years, but as a result of drastic rent increases following the COVID-19 pandemic, we have significantly stepped up our involvement. The Culinary Union is a member of the Nevada Housing Justice Alliance, and we thank Senator Flores for bringing forward this bill. As confirmed today, the Legislative Council Bureau believes that local governments have the ability to regulate housing policies. Our council at the union agrees with that interpretation, but unfortunately, it seems that no attorney for a local government in Nevada publicly agrees with that interpretation. It's incredibly frustrating for Nevadans to be in the midst of one of the worst housing crises in the nation, and to have various level of governments not only unclear on who exactly has the ability to reduce the burden of that crisis, but also actively contradicting each other about who has that authority. Given the biennial nature of Nevada's legislature and the fast-moving and ongoing nature of our housing crisis, local governments must have a role in solving that crisis, and SB 371 would ensure that they can. The Culinary Union urges the Nevada Legislature to support and pass SB 371. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please state your name for the record and proceed. Hi, Ms. Barron.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Lilith Barron. I just spelled it 5 minutes ago. I'm with the ACLU of Nevada. We strongly support this measure, and I will say that I will echo my colleague's sentiments from Culinary Union that it has been incredibly frustrating as an advocacy organization to try to help people understand who it is that they talk to when this matter comes up. It's been a game of hot potato between the legislature and between local governments, and oftentimes, at least where I live, our city attorney owns several properties and is not within his best interest to advise that they're able to use rent control. So it's kind of a conflict of interest. And it's very difficult when young people and college students and people who fuel our economy with the jobs that we very much depend on are trying to look for answers on how to advocate for themselves and how to become a part of the civic process, and they don't even know who it is that they talk to, and they're belittled before councils. It's difficult for them to come to the legislature. People really need clarity on this issue. People cannot wait 2 more years of hot potato. It's not a potato right now, it's a grenade. We couldn't wait 2 years ago, and we certainly can't wait 2 more years. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Ms. Barron. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Vice Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee, for the record, Carlos Hernandez, representing the Nevada State AFL-CIO. On behalf of over 150,000 members and more than 120 unions, the Nevada State AFL-CIO proudly supports Senate Bill 371. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Annette Magnus, and I'm the Executive Director of Battleborn Progress. We are here today in strong support of SB 371. By being a Dillon's Rule state, Nevada has significant disagreements between local elected officials and other members of the state over whether local governments have the ability to regulate rent prices and other housing policies. This bill will simply clarify that local governments do, in fact, have control of neighborhood stability for our communities experiencing high rent prices that continue to increase across the state. Groups like the American Legislative Exchange Council, also known as ALEC, promote and defend these types of policies so that local governments cannot do what is best for their communities. And hopefully one day we can extend this to other issues such as gun violence prevention, which we work on, and local governments being able to be nimble enough to keep their communities safe and respond to crises like 1 October. Because preemption, which is essentially the same principle, was also imposed in 2015. So we ask you to please support SB 371. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Marlene Lockhart, representing SEIU 1107. We are in support of local governments having the authority to impose rent control measures. Rent control is a critical tool that can help address the growing crisis of skyrocketing housing costs, protect vulnerable communities, and promote social and economic stability in our neighborhoods. Local governments are in the best position to understand the unique housing needs and challenges of their communities. They are on the ground directly interacting with residents and are familiar with local housing dynamics. By having the authority to impose rent control, local governments can tailor their policies that reflect the specific needs and characteristics of their region, rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Vice Chair, members of the committee, Tony Ramirez for the record, TonyRamirez. I'm here representing Make the Road Nevada, a Nevada-based nonprofit which elevates the power of working-class immigrant communities all around the state. On behalf of our membership, we are in strong support of SB 371.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here in Carson City who'd like to be heard in support? I'll go down to the Sawyer Building in Las Vegas. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Shanzeh Aslam, ShanZehAslam. I am the Economic Justice Program Manager with the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada, a founding member of the Nevada Housing Justice Alliance. I am here in support of SB 371. In my role with PLAN, I work with tenants and community members across the state of Nevada. The number one fact I encounter time and time again is that our community is facing an urgent housing crisis that is deeply impacting lives. Unfortunately, in Nevada, there is a confusion between local governments and state legislature on what powers regarding housing have been explicitly granted to local governments. Therefore, even if local governments want to take action to protect local tenants, they feel limited under Dillon's rule. By expressly granting local governments the ability to enact policies for affordable housing, we would allow each region in the state of Nevada to choose the best policies for their communities and address their specific concerns and needs. I urge you to pass SB 371 to provide our local governments clarity on their roles so we can move forward in addressing other concerns that underlie our housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Anyone else in support at the Sawyer Building? Okay, don't see anyone down there. Broadcasting, anyone on the phone lines in support of Senate Bill 371?
If you'd like to testify in support of SB 371, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Ornsall and members of the committee. Excuse me. For the record, my name is Edward Goodrich, EDWARDGOODRICH. I'm representing the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, Local 363 in Reno. We support and strongly urge the committee to support Senate Bill 371. This is an important issue strongly deserving of clear local control. I thank the committee for its time.
Thank you very much. Broadcasting, anyone else on the phone lines in support of the measure?
Good afternoon. My name is Shelley Speck. That's Shellly. Last name is Speck. And I'm a resident of Gardnerville, Nevada, and a parent leader for the Children's Advocacy Alliance. And I just want to extend my support for SB 371 and just say, let the local jurisdictions have a say in whether or not they enact ordinances in their own areas. Thank you for your time. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Ruben Perez. I strongly urge the committee to support Senate Bill 371. I support this bill because we need to take bold measures to ensure that every family has access to affordable housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Chair,
Broadcasting.
you have no more callers in support at this time. You have no more callers in support at this time, Chair.
No more callers in support? Okay, thank you very much. I'd now like to turn to opposition. I'll start here in Carson City, then we'll go down to the Sawyer Building, then we'll go to the phone lines. And as I did with the previous hearing, on 2 minutes per witness, and I appreciate everyone being here and your patience. Please state your name for the record and proceed whoever would like to begin.
Mr. Vice Chair, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
I don't think your microphone's on.
I don't think I'm close enough.
Okay, thank you.
For the record, John Sandy with Argentum Partners here today on behalf of the Nevada State Apartment Association. I want to thank Senator Flores. Nevada is experiencing a housing crisis, and we appreciate his dedication to finding solutions. However, we respectfully disagree with this approach. I was going to testify slightly differently, but I figured in light of the testimony, I wanted to offer a slightly different legal perspective on it. I totally respect the senator. I respect LCB. However, I think I view what occurred in 2015 in AB 493 slightly different. Now, NRS 268.003, which was codified from AB 493, allows local governments to adopt policies that are matters of local concern. In my opinion, Nevada is experiencing a housing crisis. This is a Nevada crisis. It isn't a City of Las Vegas crisis or a Henderson crisis or a Clark County crisis. The solutions to these issues must be uniform and consistent within the entire state, or we'll be creating inequalities between municipalities. I think the state has also found that housing is a matter of regional of concern. In NRS 315.961, it's involving the rural housing authorities. It stated that it is the policy of the state to promote the health, welfare, and safety of the residents and to develop more desirable neighborhoods and alleviate poverty in counties, cities, and towns of the state by making provisions for decent, safe, and sanitary housing facilities for persons of low and moderate income. I believe this is an illustration of how much our state as a state concerns affordability and other matters relating to housing. And so I would respectfully request you to vote no on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sandy. Thanks for your testimony. Whoever would like to begin, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Azim Jessa. I'm the Vice Chair of the Nevada Realtors Legislative Committee. I'm also a Realtor with Urban Nest Realty in Las Vegas, and we here as Nevada Realtors are in opposition to SB 371. First of all, we appreciate that Nevada is a Dillon's Rule state. Dillon's Rule takes a narrow approach to local authority, essentially stating that local governments only have the powers expressly granted to them by the state unless it's for health, safety, or welfare. SB 371 would grant home rule only for affordable housing and rent control. Because there there are numerous local jurisdictions in our state, this would create varying rules on affordable housing and rent control in each county and municipality. For example, the cities of North Las Vegas, Henderson, and Las Vegas could all have different affordable housing policies than the county they reside in, making it extremely difficult for residents, property owners, and state agencies to navigate the housing market. Realtors consider rent control to be a flawed housing policy that diminishes housing values, discourages production of new rental units, and will lead to a reduction of available rental units. Rent control negatively affects the housing inventory by accelerating the deterioration and loss of existing housing. The expense of complying with rent control regulations, especially if they vary in each jurisdiction, inevitably increases the cost of housing to consumers. And the expense in enforcing rent control adds additional burdens to local governments. In addition, rent control does nothing to lower the unaffordable housing that we can all agree is extremely high right now. Only additional supply will do that. Again, this bill would give away too much state power to local governments and locally elected officials without any oversight from the state. It would further limit the state's ability to intervene with local affairs. The Nevada Realtors are opposed to SB 371. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you for your testimony. Thanks for coming up to Carson City. Please state your name for the record, whoever would like to begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Josh Hicks with McDonald Carano. I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Home Builders Association, the Southern Nevada Home Builders Association, and the Builders Association of Northern Nevada, collectively representing the home building industry throughout the state. And our opposition to this bill is largely based on uncertainty. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about it, but the lack of defined terms for affordable housing is concerning. The lack of a defined term for rent control is concerning. The fact that that is a non-exhaustive list of things that can be done in the name of affordable housing is also concerning. These kind of things, we heard some testimony about what some other items might be, fees, inclusionary zoning. These are all very, very complex and complicated areas. And when bills have come up or other states have looked at them, they're very detailed, they're very complicated, and it's very important to get them right so that they do not have a negative impact and are counterproductive to what we really want to do, which was increase housing supply in the state and control prices that way. So the Home Builders Association is always generally in favor of those policies. I agree with what Mr. Sandy said, that home prices are an issue. It's a statewide issue. It's an issue that's best resolved by increasing the supply of housing. That's why the home builders support bills like Assembly Bill 213 that hopefully will be over in the Senate at some point this session. Those are all designed to expedite and speed up the supply of housing across the board, affordable housing and market rate housing. We feel like that's the better answer. With respect to this bill, we're concerned that the uncertainty will lead to confusion, will lead to misunderstandings, and that lack of specificity is why we're here in opposition today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hicks. Whoever would like to begin, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and members of the committee. Carrie Kramer here on behalf of NAAP. The three gentlemen in front of me said it far more eloquently than I ever could. We are here in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Emily Osterberg, Osterberg, and I'm here on behalf of the Henderson Chamber of Commerce and our more than 1,800 members, most of who are small businesses. Home rule for affordable housing and rent control gives unnecessary power to local governments while limiting the oversight from the state. For this reason and the other comments that were previously mentioned, we are opposed to SB 371. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good evening, members of the committee. Paul Moore, acting with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber is opposed to SB 371 for two reasons. One, the Chamber does, as you've previously heard from other opponents of the bill, believe that rent control will not address the concerns in our affordable housing problems throughout our state. We do not believe that this policy works. But also from the regards to the overall issue about home rule, the Chamber believes and was heavily involved with the negotiations in 2015 that local government has functional home rule, not fiscal home rule. That was our interpretation of the law and working with LCB back in 2015 that it's functional. And we do believe that any encroachment into fiscal home rule is an issue for our organization. We've been long opposed to any fiscal home rule components. We believe that authority should reside in this body and this body only. So we appreciate that, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Brian Wachter. I serve as the Senior Vice President of the Retail Association of Nevada. I would just like to start out by saying that yourself, Mr. Vice Chair, and the Chair were entirely correct in 2015 when you voted against this in the first place. And we appreciated your support then. We are very concerned about the comments that were made previously. I believe it was Section 6, Paragraph 1, Sub 3, but specifically saying that on issues of state concern, the limitations on the modification to Dillon's rule were limited. And excuse me, that cite was from the original bill 493. I apologize. And so taking a look at the language, we would think, especially given the regional and statewide differences, that we really need this body to come up with a comprehensive solution. And I think that really means bringing people together on a wide variety on a statewide basis, doing it in this forum as opposed to the inconsistent application that we might get otherwise. And so we urge you to oppose this bill as well.
Appreciate your testimony. Thank you. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Christine Hess, and I am the Executive Director of the Nevada Housing Coalition, a statewide nonprofit to advance and promote affordable housing for all Nevadans. I'd like to thank Chair Flores for bringing this forward. Of course, it's an important topic, and it's been a topic that I've been in front of you before. We are in an affordable housing crisis, and there is not one solution. There are many solutions. Rent control, though, is not the solution. Not to say that people aren't suffering today and that we've had high increases in rent. We do need more supply. We need more affordable housing, subsidized units, and we need more housing to serve our community members at diverse housing types at various income levels. I'd also like to point out the terminology of affordable housing in the bill. Affordable housing is defined in NRS, so just want to note that that is also a bit confusing. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing anyone else here in Carson City. I'd like to go down to the Sawyer Building. Testimony in opposition to Senate Bill 371, and we are limiting it to 2 minutes per speaker.
Hello, my name is Marissa Kagan. I live here in Las Vegas. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm a real estate agent, but first and foremost, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a member of this beautiful city, and I'm also actually a registered Democrat. And I say that just for you to know that this isn't a Democrat or Republican issue. This has to do with a huge crisis, and it's been going on for 3 years now. The solution is not rent control. I was born in New York. I lived in California for 20 years, so it's 2 states that has had rent control. It doesn't fix the problem. I was just in LA last week. The homelessness issue is insane. We have that issue here as well. But I feel like it's frustrating to me to see this body say, oh, the solution, let's let the local authorities and jurisdictions start debating this issue, which I just see as a nightmare. And at the moment where we need developers to come into our cities and develop these projects, those 84,000 units, and yes, we do need them to be built, they're not going to get built if there's any fear around rent control. They'll go to another state to build their projects. So the investment in new builds will come to a screeching halt. Rental units tend to be more scarce in states where there's rental control. And rental control also leads to decay of the rental housing because landlords can't invest in the maintenance when they're not making a profit. So I get it, and I'm all for solving this problem, but what about public-private partnerships? So looking into cooperative housing so that we can have homes that people can buy. It's insane that people who have jobs, 2 people that have jobs and are working, we have a wage problem in Nevada. The affordability, yes, you're right, 3 times the rent. People should be able to afford the rent in Nevada. They don't because they're not paid enough. So I know that's not necessarily a popular position, but rent control is not going to fix it. And I can tell you, I'm a property manager, and the owners that I don't have any large investors. They
Miss,
will sell.
I'm sorry to interrupt
and it won't be to some. Oh, no problem.
We're at 2 minutes. If you could just kind of close up your comments, I appreciate your testimony.
No, just. Well, I don't have any large hedge funds that I represent. The problem we have in Nevada is a lot of Wall Street money coming in here and creating this problem. The homeowners that I represent will just sell. They won't be able to afford to continue to rent them out. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And again, I should have mentioned this earlier. If anyone runs out of time, you can submit written comments that will be made part of the record to the committee secretary via email, or if the LCB office is still open down there. Please state your name for the record and proceed, sir. Apologies, we can't hear you.
Rojas. I live in.
Now we can hear you.
I got the mic now.
Now we can hear you. Great. Thank you.
My name is Al Rojas. I live in Assembly District 12, Senate District 21. I neighbor with Senator Flores' Senate District 2. I am a conservative advocate, staunch Republican, and our family has owned over 42 rental income units. I'm an investor, and that's how I make my living, by renting out rental properties. Now, I'm confused about the bill if you guys are trying to make the language general enough to address the rental crisis. If you're going to make a rental bill, just make a rental bill. Now, as a Republican, I'm going to blow everybody away, because all you guys that are testifying, even you guys in the real estate business, are blowing it. You guys don't understand why these rents are going up. It's because people want to invest. Now, a general investor, if you want to invest money, if you want to go invest $1 million, you want to get at least 6% return on your money. And that's how you determine the property value of a property. I bought a property here. It peaked at $310,000. I got it at a real good deal. It's back down to $250,000. Okay, now, the thing is that what we need, I do support rent control. If I have a property that I can make the yearly fixes on it and increase the rent by 6%, that is going to protect my investment, and I have 6% growth every year. I'm willing to work with Senator Flores and address that issue. And as a matter of fact, some of the Republican candidates who ran against Senator Flores were also for rent control. I would like to talk to Senator Flores about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Anyone else at the Sawyer Building? I don't see anyone else coming up in opposition. Broadcasting on the phone lines, if there's anyone opposed to Senate Bill 371 who wants to be heard, now's your chance. Please state your name for the record and proceed. We are limiting it to 2 minutes per speaker.
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 371, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Wiz Rizard, W-I-Z-R-O-U-Z-A-R-D, Deputy State Director with Americans for Prosperity here in Nevada. And on behalf of Americans for Prosperity Nevada and our 1,000 activists, I urge you to oppose Senate Bill 371, which is broad, vague, and harmful. I do want to acknowledge and thank the bill sponsor for bringing forward this bill, and I understand the concerns that he's trying to address. And although the bill seeks to clarify previous existing laws, rather than repeal it, this bill seeks to add to an already current bad statute by expanding even more an unchecked power by county governments that impact Nevada's constitutional rights. Granting this new expanded power in an attempt to address some serious issues within the housing market related to price of certain rentals, it does create some unintended consequences with severe restrictions imposed on property owners, the housing market, and the proliferations of more cronyism, to which government becomes more empowered to pick winners and losers. And I believe a lot of the individuals who testified touched on those examples. Rent control regulatory powers like what SB 371 is attempting to expand the local government has proven harmful to many states and cities that have enacted it. And most recently, just look to St. Paul, Minnesota, where in 2021, their then mayor, Melvin Carter, who campaigned for rent control, only sought to repeal the ordinance once he became elected because he saw the market respond with the loss of real estate funding, resulting in a housing and rental shortage. The adverse effect on already a high rental market will disincentivize more rentals in entering the market, which will lead to higher prices and cause more housing affordability. If your goal is to help low-income families and address affordable housing, we suggest we can unlock economic opportunities to families to get ahead by doing three things: rein in and reform burdensome housing and land use zoning regulations, eliminate cronyism and tax subsidies for billionaires and major corporations, and thirdly, remove barriers that stand in the way of pursuing economic opportunity. There are already some current pending lawsuits challenging Dillon's rural intent as a result of local government powers like SB 371 is attempting to expand, whether it's short-term renting, developers' use of land, and many other constitutional infringements due to this local government overstepping their authority. So we're urging you to vote no. We think that the best way to resolve any affordable housing or rent control is actually free market principles, increasing the supply,
Mr. Broussard?
allow competition to thrive, and ensure that government regulation doesn't
Mr. Broussard, sorry to interrupt you, but we're past the 2 minutes.
Orenshaw, I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for your testimony. Broadcasting, anyone else on the phone lines?
Caller 082 plus *6 to unmute.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Berry. I am a property manager in Las Vegas. I currently manage 1,033 units, and our company has been in business since 1995. One thing I don't think anybody has addressed tonight is the fact that vacancies always control our rents. When vacancies are high, rents go lower. When vacancies are low, rents go higher. Unfortunately, Bill 486 worked against the amount of vacancies out there, and Bill 486 caused the judge's hands to be tied and not to be able to evict anyone, which I understand, but at the same time, that's what caused the rent to climb so drastically. Now that CHAP's rental assistance is over, we are seeing in our market here in Las Vegas, we're seeing vacancies rise. We're also seeing rents come down now in order to rent. You know, we talked about earlier the commissioners asking for a 15% salary increase, which I fully support. However, that same commissioner could say that we can only raise the rents 5% when inflation is at 8.5%. That's not fair. Put that burden on our mom and pop owners. I adamantly oppose this bill 371, and I really think that there are other avenues in order to accomplish what you're trying to do. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your testimony.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. I'd like to now go to neutral on the measure. Anyone who's neutral here in Carson City or down at the Sawyer Building? Anyone who's neutral? Don't see anyone. Broadcasting on the phone lines, is there anyone who wants to be heard in the neutral position on Senate Bill 371?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 371, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue or raise your hand in the Zoom window. Caller Valerie, go ahead and *6 to unmute.
*6. I don't know how to do it.
Excuse me, we can hear you, sir.
I don't know how to do it.
Sir, I don't know if you can hear me. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Valerie Tilson. I live in Reno. I am in a mobile home, which has not been mentioned in this bill. So at this point, I'm not sure what side I'm impacted by, but our mobile home park was sold unbeknownst to us, the tenants. We don't know who our owner is. We don't have current new leases. And our current rent's $590. New tenants, $1,010, the highest in northern Nevada. I am scared because I paid for this mobile home. I want to invest in my property because it's paid in full. I want to paint and upgrade the home, put in shrubbery. But if the rent goes up with the new lease, then it's not a mutual benefit for me and the realtor. The realtor cannot close the deal sale because there's no current lease. It's still at the attorneys. So I'm a mixed bag. Yes, the definition of affordable housing needs to be refined, but I am petrified for the fact in 90 days of a notification that I have to sell, move, and find housing. We just heard from all the corporates, attorneys, such that, they're opposing it. I can see it in that point. And I've read, and I'm concerned I'm on a fixed income. Where am I to go on a fixed income along with everyone in my park? I've called the city and county, and they've deferred to the legislation, waiting for several bills. So at this point, I want to present both sides. I understand everybody wants to make a profit, but our COLA has already been gobbled up. The grocery prices have exceeded the COLA of 8.7%. So if it goes up, as grocery prices are predicting, it doesn't take a rocket science to look at the stock market and read commodities to see that gas is going up or Nevada Energy is going up. So where does that leave us? And I understand the investor is there to make money, but at the perilous of those who are seniors and disabled, where does that leave us?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
I appreciate your testimony, and I know that in the past through the State Office of Manufactured Housing, there was a mobile home rent subsidy, and I don't know quite now what's going on with that, but I'd encourage you perhaps to feel free to contact my office here in Carson City.
Don't qualify.
Don't qualify.
I'm in that bracket. I'm over the thresholds for any assistance, so I'm not on the handouts of subsidies.
Well, I can give you the direct line to my office, and I apologize, this isn't usual in public comment, but the direct line to my office is Carson City. We're happy to try to investigate. Direct line to my office is 775-684-6503, and perhaps we can try to put you in touch with some other resources. Thank you very much for your testimony. And
Thank
again,
you very much.
Okay, thank you. Broadcasting, anyone else on the phone line?
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you very much. Chair Flores, would we care to make some closing comments? We appreciate your work on this bill.
Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody called in support and opposition. I appreciate people participating in the process. Wherever you land on my bill is fine. I respect that. I want to clarify a couple things. I think only about 3 or 4 people out of the entire opposition actually addressed what this bill does. The rest of the opposition were talking about why rent control is good or why it's bad, or that they want to put it at 6%. So let me start with the folk that didn't address my bill, by just making it abundantly clear. There was folk that came up in opposition and said, affordable housing is a very complex conversation. And things like, and I'm not suggesting that they like this, but they were talking about inclusionary zoning, what that looks like, and payment of money in lieu of performance of an obligation. They were talking about how complex that is. To those folk that came in opposition and said that, I'm reminding you that all this bill does is that it allows for local jurisdictions to engage in that conversation. To the gentleman that said rent control should be capped at a 6% increase every year, you can do that. You can go after this bill passes, you're going to go and talk to your local city or county and going to engage in that conversation. And should that be the right path, there's going to be public comment, there's going to be thousands of people involved in that process, stakeholders will come together, and if they can find some common ground for that particular city or county, they're going to do it. If they can, if it's too complex, if it doesn't work, if they said, you know what, rent control is not appropriate here, inclusionary zoning is not the right thing, it just won't happen. To the folk that said private-public partnerships is a better route, great. With the passage of this bill and making it abundantly clear, you're going to go to your city and county and you're going to engage that particular council member, that particular commissioner, and you're going to say, this is why I think this is the best route, and it's going to be perfect for this particular county. This bill actually empowers the opposition, because the opposition has a lot of solutions that are presently not in play, that are not being listened to, that are not happening. And the reason a lot of this affordable housing possible solutions, the reason they're not being implemented is because they don't work statewide. Bottom line, for us to pretend that the issues of Lyon County and Clark County are the same, or for us to pretend that the issues of Washoe County and Douglas County or Elko, et cetera, for us to pretend that they're all the same and that the correct way to approach this conversation is through a bill, my answer to you is, if that were true, we would have already done it. We would have already found the solution. If it was that clear and that simple, that we needed one rule across the board and every stakeholder would have agreed, then we would have absolutely found that solution already and we would have already implemented it. Everybody that came in opposition, I guarantee you, on different proposals would be in opposition to each other, because they might agree with one option, but they don't agree with the other. Because the reality is that this is too broad and too complex of an issue to be addressed at the state level in its entirety. We have to do our job, and we have a responsibility, and we have to do work around it, but so do the local jurisdictions. And then I also just wanted to make the point that for those who did address the bill, because there was a handful of folk that actually addressed the bill, which is we don't like local jurisdictions having control. We don't like local jurisdictions being involved in this space. I made that argument in 2015 and I lost. Bottom line, we made the decision in 2015, and now we are in a position 8 years later to accept the consequences and or the reality of what that is, and allow what we told the local jurisdictions they can do, allow them to do it, and give them the clarity. They asked for clarity. They've been asking for it for 8 years. They're not sure whether they could do it or not. There's hesitation. Our legal has clearly made a point that they believe they can. Let's clarify it and allow for those jurisdictions that want to engage in this conversation to do so. And if they don't want to, they won't. Nobody is forcing anybody to do rent control with this bill. What rent control means is not being defined with this bill. What I mean by that is the local jurisdictions are going to engage in a very complex, very tedious, very long conversation, should they want to. And they're going to find the best possible solutions with whatever is in their power to address the concerns of their constituency. That's all we're doing here. So for the folk, like I said, for the very few folk that actually addressed the issue of home rule and Dillon's rule, to you, I tell you, I agreed with you in 2015, but we lost. And now we're just clarifying what we did in 2015. With that, thank you, Vice Chair, members. I appreciate everybody staying late, and I appreciate everybody who participated in the process.
Thank you very much, Chair Flores. Thank you for presenting Senate Bill 371 and Senate Bill 373. With that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 371, and I will pass the gavel back to our chair. Good to have you back, Chair.
And with that, we will open it up for public comment. Anybody wishing to join us now? We do have somebody in Las Vegas. Mr. Rojas,
Yeah, I have a
welcome
general
back.
comment. Hi. I wanted to take this time to apologize to Senator Orenshaw. I got a little overexcited on one of his other bills, and as you know, I am a strong advocate for trying to bring homelessness down, and I think there's a lot of solutions. I've done some research that says that there's approximately 5,000 people who are homeless, and 25% of them have mental problems. And I think there's other solutions which I could address at another time. I also want to take the time now to address Senator Flores. Maybe I misunderstood your bill. I wanted to be clear, even though I am a staunch Republican, I do believe that rent control could work in our areas. And I would love for us to reach out together. And if you would listen to my proposal on a 6% cap in our areas, it makes economic sense for somebody who wants to get into the real estate business as an investor, as long as the 6% is on top of any fixes to the home. And I think it would address a lot of the issues that all these investors coming from California are ruining our real estate market for the people who live here. Thank you very much, sir.
And thank you, Mr. Rojas, for joining us again. We've been having really long meetings, and you've been hanging out with us, so I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody
Thank
else
you.
wishing to join us for public comment? We do have somebody in Las Vegas, please.
Marissa Kagan, I just want to thank you all for what you're doing. It's not easy work to just come up there and deal with problems that have amassed over 2 years in such a short period of time. But if anything, I wish that there was more dialogue, because the affordability issue here, it's not about jurisdiction and rent control. It's about so many things. And it's frustrating because I've been at the legislature and I've been to Washington, D.C., and I've been speaking about affordability for a long time. The Wall Street money, the out-of-state money, the fact that our hardworking Nevadans can't afford and can't compete with those cash buyers, that's creating the problem here. And no amount of rent control is going to fix that, even if it's the jurisdiction, like you said, and I understood the bill, but the confusion, I'm really worried about the confusion it's going to create. And at the moment where we need investment in our state and in our cities, we're going to lose that investment. So hopefully some common sense legislation will come out of all this. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. I see nobody else in Carson City or Las Vegas. BPS, is there anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now and take your place in the queue. Caller 643, press star 6 to unmute.
Wiz Rouzard, Wizrouzard. I just wanted to thank, I'm Deputy State Director with Americans for Prosperity in Nevada. I did want to thank Vice Chair Senator Orenshaw for a well-ran meeting. I greatly appreciate the balance, sir, that you approached this committee meeting. And I do want to take the time to thank BPS for running the meeting very, very efficiently on the back end. I know most people don't see the work that you all do, but I do want to take the time to show gratitude and appreciate, especially during these time meeting deadlines, that you all are sticking around for a long time. It's been long days, but you all are doing an exceptional job. So keep up the great work. Let's keep these chambers going with the voices of Nevadans and the great issues of discussions. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. And I appreciate you giving a shout out to all the staff that works incredibly hard. We couldn't do anything without them. So thank you for pointing that out. Anybody else wishing to join us for public comment?
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
All right, we'll close out public comment at this time. I want to give folk a lay of the land for Friday. There's a couple things happening. I anticipate that there will be some committees that may not traditionally meet on Friday meeting. I also anticipate committees running really long because, unfortunately, there are folk who, if they don't get their bill heard and fixed and amended and voted out on by this Friday, it's not going to move. I make that point because we are only doing, and we're doing a very long work session document on Friday, and I need everybody to be here. So because of that, what we'll probably do, rather than meet at 3:30, we will leave it open to the call of the chair. And what that's going to allow for us to do is two things. Number one, if you're one of those individuals that needs to present a bill, I don't want to put you in a compromising situation where it's either present a bill or not vote on a bunch of issues. I don't think that's transparent. I would hate to do that to you, to make it seem like some game's being played. That's not the intent. Number one. Number two, because a lot of people are going to be hearing bills on Friday and also voting on them, I don't want to interrupt the hearing where you're in the middle of a hearing, you haven't had all the issues resolved in another committee, and then now you're forced to come here to vote, and then you have to go run back and vote on a bill without having had an opportunity to fully vet it. So that I don't put any member in that compromising situation, we're going to put the meeting at the call of the chair for Friday. If we can, it is my intent for us to meet at 3:30. We'll have a very long work session that I believe will take probably closer to 2 hours, maybe more. And then hopefully we'll be done. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, I wait for all the hearings to end, namely those that you are sitting on other committees on, and then we meet immediately after that. And in that way, we honor everything you have to do in other committees, and then we honor the work that we got to do here. So that's kind of what I wanted, just to give everybody an idea of why we're doing it this way and how we intend to operate on Friday. I do ask the members, in the interest of knowing whether or not a bill even has the votes, and so that we don't waste the time of this committee, of our staff and everybody else. If you do have issues with bills and you're simply not there, that's fine, but if you can give me a heads up, that will allow for me to say, well, if this bill doesn't have the votes, then it is what it is, and unfortunately, we won't waste anybody's time on it. So if you could just please, of every bill that's out there that we've heard that we have not yet voted on, if you could please let me know which ones you don't like. And I'm not going to share that with anybody. I just don't want to waste the committee's time with bills that don't have the votes. All right. Again, staff, really appreciate all your help. Legal, thank you for co-presenting technically through you into that presentation mode. Thank you. I mean that. Mr. McDonald, thank you. We're very close. We are very close to closing out this week and then hopefully having some breathing room. I also wanted to say as a thank you that we're probably not going to meet on Monday. And that, I think we have some breathing room, and then we can push along meetings and have those long meetings when we have to. But hopefully, come Friday, we'll be done and not have to meet on Monday. Members, again, thank you for all the hard work to our staff. And with that, this meeting's adjourned.